We're still with the normal distribution, and this time we're looking at percentiles, meaning, remember, percentiles is the percent that falls below a particular score. So if I want to know the score that's at the 80th percentile, I'm looking for the score that's higher than 80% and less than 20% of the population here. So I'm kind of looking for that dividing line between the top 20% and the bottom 80%. And we're going to use the calculator for this again. Of course, there's no way we can do it by hand. And the function we're going to use is inverse norm. It's the inverse function for the normal distribution, which is what we used last time. And it's in the same place. We go to second vars. That gives us our distributions. And we go down to inverse norm. And we say we want 0.8 for 80%. And if we just give it that number, it's going to say 0.8416. Now, what does that mean? If we don't tell it a mean and a standard deviation here, like we did with the normal distribution, it's going to assume the mean is 0 and the standard deviation is 1, which means it's going to give us a z-score. So it's going to set this up 0, 1, 2, etc., -1, -2. It's telling us that 80% fall below a z-score of 0.8416. So that's a little bit less than 1 standard deviation. So 0.8416 standard deviations above the mean. That gives us our 80% below and our 20% above. But what if we're looking at a particular context? For example, let's go with IQs again, because they're easy, not because they're meaningful. And we know we got 100, 115, 130, right? Our standard deviation of 15 and our mean of 100. Suppose we want our 80th percentile there. We know it's going to be at a z-score of 0.8416, but if we put in our mean and our standard deviation, it should actually give us the IQ score instead of a z-score. So let's go to inverse norm. And we want our 0.8 for our 80%. And we've got a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 15. It's going to give us 112.62. So that's the IQ score that would sit at that standard deviation above the mean, at that z-score. So that would be our 112.6 there. 80% below, 20% above. Now there is an organization of people that think they're smart. It's a high IQ society. It's called Mensa. You've ever heard of it? And their requirement for entry was, I don't know, I haven't looked into them for a long, long time, but the requirement used to be that you had to be in the top 2% of IQs. So you have to be above a certain IQ score that puts you in the top 2%. But what IQ score would that be? If we're 2% above this IQ score, that leaves 98% below. So what we're looking for is the 98th percentile. And we can find that this same way. Go to our inverse norm, 0.98 for 98%, comma 100, comma 15. That would be 130.8 would leave us our 2% above. So remember, 130 was the cutoff for the gifted. So just a tiny bit above that, and that leaves only 2% above and 98% below. I think that's about it. I don't think we need to finish this. This is an easy enough topic that those keystrokes are not that difficult to learn. And we are done for the moment with the normal distribution.